Welcome to the Triple Shift, the conversation for people leading at work while caring at home and doing their best to remain human through it all. I'm Denise Brown.
And I'm Lauren Yankoff. And around here, we believe that the future of work is being written in real time by working caregivers, executives, managers, and everyday professionals, balancing the triple shift of work, life, and care.
Every episode, we ask the same three questions, and we ask our guest the same three questions, and we hope you ask yourself those questions because we really want to share insights, helpful tips, and a meaningful conversation that you receive every time you listen.
We'll start with your story
and then explore how carrying those three shifts impact the way you see work, leadership, or success.
And finally, what do you want workplaces to do differently if they truly understood what both the cost and the wisdom of caregiving meant?
Our purpose is clear: insight and connection. We want you to hear yourself in these stories and leave with language, perspective, and hope.
And when you're ready for strategy and support, that's where we come in.
Let's get into it.
All right. Well, welcome to the fourth episode of Work, Live, Care, the Triple Shift. Today, Denise and I are joined by Calvina Nyugen, who is a brand strategist and designer with over 20 years of design experience, who helps creators, coaches, and consultants bridge the gap between their expertise and their online presence. And she delivers brand strategy, brand design, and websites that help entrepreneurs look as professional as their expertise and attract ideal clients online. Not only that, which is partly how she and I met, but the other reason she and I met and I invited her here today is Calvina is caring for both of her parents who have Parkinson's. She is also a mom and a partner. And part of her story is that she is an immigrant from China. She came here when she was 9 years old. And I think that shapes a significant part of all of this for you. I know in our conversations, it certainly impacted what we've talked about. So I'm looking forward to you sharing your story with us today and with our listeners. But I was hoping, Calvina, you could start by sharing a little bit with us about what your triple shift looks like.
Well, what it looks like on a day-to-day, it's hard. I mean, I'm really lucky that I am in a period of my life. I'm in a season of my life. My children are more grown and more independent. And so I do still have one at home, but she can pretty much take care of on her own. So I'm very lucky in that way where that part is, I really feel like I'm like, when I'm at home, I need somebody to take care of me. And I'm really lucky that my family are very good at it. And so they're always here to support me in supporting others. And so the primary people that I'm supporting right now are my parents, and they live only a mile from me. So I'm really grateful that they had the foresight to move closer, right? Like when my kids were little, they came over. It's just to spend more time with me, to be closer to me, and they were able to watch my kids grow up. And so now as we shift into this place where they need help, I'm also closer to them where I can really guide them through. So this caretaking really started in 2020, actually. Like I can pinpoint it to the day. It was the Monday when they shut down for the pandemic. And it was the day when our school district said, no one, we're shutting school down, can't go back. That very day, my mother called and said, I can't get out of bed. My back, messed up my back. I can't get up. And when I said, well, hey, it's okay. Let's just stay in bed. I'll make you dinner tonight. And it quickly became like, nobody is safe to go out, right? Nobody could go out into, get groceries. And then, so I said, well, don't go get groceries. I'll get your groceries. And then I continued making them dinner. So since that day in 2020, I have been making them dinner almost every day. because shortly after that was when I started, you know, I didn't feel good about her going out to get groceries and everything. And she was still having a hard time getting out of bed and moving around. Slowly she healed from that, but that's when I started noticing the weakness. And that's when her diagnosis came. But I just kept it up. I kept up the cooking. So yeah, I went from the pandemic when, you know, we didn't have anything to do. I had plenty of time to cook. It was not a problem back then. It was like, we were barely even working. So I'm like, I had time to make a meal every day, send it to her door. And then went like, I got to get back to work. So I started cooking every other day. Now it's like, oh my gosh, my work is really, really busy. And then I'm, you know, making one large batch cooking for her. So that's my primary right now. But at the same time, there's a lot because my parents are immigrants. They don't really know the language here. It's still to this day, they're not comfortable in the English language. And so what that means is that like I've grown up being the kid who has done all of their translations. I've done like from school documents, everything. I took care of myself. I took care of everything myself and I translated everything that needed signing. And like, I took care of any documents really. And that's kind of the way it was. And it is now. So I'm in the position now to like, it's scary. I still haven't been able to find the help that I need to make sure that they're supported when I'm not around. But my business has gotten really busy. So my fear is just I'm always struggling with guilt, you know, like, oh, and it's the same thing that we struggled as mothers, right? Like, I feel like I'm at this stage of my life when it's flipped onto caring for my parents in the same way that I felt like I needed to take care of my toddlers. And then when I can't be there fully, I feel a lot of guilt. And I also feel like I'm pulled from my job if I need to be away from my job to do it. So currently I'm really only working 4 days a week. So every Friday I take them out to go to lunch. I take them out just so that they can get out. They no longer drive. So they're entirely really dependent on me to get them groceries, to get them fed, and then like to get out of the house. I take them out so that they can not feel like they're cooped up in the house all the time. And so I take them to their Costco run and, you know, we do their grocery shopping for their snacks or whatever for the week. And so they look forward to that every Friday. And what's really hard about this is that I am the only child. I came from China. And like I said, I was born under the one child policy law. And so I am the only child. So that's part of the tough thing. And I think a lot of people ask, you know, they're like, you're doing a lot. And even my Chinese friends, right? Who like, and they didn't like my Chinese friends that either they had their parents had their siblings way before that law came in. Cause I was literally, I mean, that's a backstory, but then like it really hit right when my family got hit right at the beginning. So I have a lot of friends who don't have that same pressure, that don't have that same like only child, or even the expectation of, you know, my non-Chinese friends. I was like, you do a lot, your parents. And so for me, it's like there is you grow up. I wouldn't call it expectations, but it is like I understand the value of what they have given me by really like leaving everything they knew behind to come to the United States where I could have an education and opportunities and to be the woman that I am. Like I would not be the woman that I am right now if I didn't move, if I didn't come here, if I'm not in this country, I would not be the strong, independent woman that I am. I can't say that enough, right? So their choice shaped who I am. And I think, oh, I might get emotional, but so I feel a very strong sense of like, I think, I don't even know if I want to use this word, but in Chinese culture, it is like you are the dutiful daughter. Like it is my duty, but I don't necessarily like duty feels like it's a duty, but like for me, like, yes, it's a duty, but then I do feel like this is something I want to do. And then I want to take care of them. And then so that all wraps up into my values, who I am as a woman, who I am as a Chinese woman. That's why I do so much. And then, so yeah, I don't do it perfectly right now. I literally apologize like this morning to my husband. I was like, so sorry. I didn't, you know, I could not get dinner on the table because all of my energy is spent on making dinner for my parents and trying to learn Chinese and Cantonese meals. I don't have an ounce of creative like cooking left for myself. And luckily I have a family who feed me really well. My daughter she's a culinary, she's learning, like she's on the route on track to becoming specializing in culinary. My husband is an amazing cook. My son is amazing. I've gotten to being the sole cook in the house, to being the one that everyone cooks for now, because it's my role has reversed. So grateful for a family who is supportive, because I would not be able to do this without them.
Calvina, no, I want to honor what you are sharing, because there are so many things that I'm sure resonate for so many people who are listening. I was writing down as you were talking, and I think one, there's such a mix of emotions when we're caregiving, right? Because you shared fear, you shared guilt, but you also shared immense gratitude. You shared this sense of being a dutiful daughter, that there was this feeling that you had to, but that you wanted to. And I think that comes up for so many people. You also said, you said sometimes that you feel like you don't have an ounce left for yourself.
Yeah.
And when we're giving and doing that, I'm curious around your ability though in these times, because I think that you you've how do you kind of overcome that, or what do you do to give yourself what you need as you move through this?
I have no perfect answer for that. I have no answer for that. Like I think that all of us who are going through the caregiving, we're all struggling with all of that, right? But I think the efforts that I put in, it's not an answer, it's an effort. I kept asking myself last year, whenever things got hard, was just, I need to spark joy. I need joy in my life, and I need to make sure. And I've forgotten what joy was like between work, and I'm really hard in my work, and watching my business take off and doing all of that. And sometimes, I mean, and it gives me joy, but then it's not about me, right? And then so it's just forcing me to ask a lot of questions, like what sparks my joy. And so for me, really is relationships. And so I understood that that's why this year I wanted so much it's like, I am going to challenge myself every week. I'm going to reach out to one person to spend some quality time with them. Right. And then so I'm like, you and I just had dinner, right? It's like, that was very important to me. And then I wanted to reach out to one person so like, I'm going out to dinner tonight with a friend. And so because that is important to me, and that spark is going to be different for everyone. And then so when I asked myself, what gives me the most joy? It's relationship is one, and creativity is another. And then honestly, I don't know if I have time for any creativity. I mean, honestly, all my creatively for me, again, is all spent on my work. So all the work that I do, that's my job. It's like, I am creating, I'm designing, and I'm like, all of that is for my clients. And you ask my assistant, I'm constantly apologizing to her. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I have no time to even work on my own designs. And to be quite honest, I'm completely tapped out of creative juices for my own designs. And then I keep pushing, like, I promise I will rework this design for us. But right now I can't even think about it. And then that's just how I think, what happens when you're taking care of others, right? And so my whole life is taking care of others, and I am so like on the work side and then on the home side. And then, so thank God, my family, my husband, my children right now are in like a place where they're like, we don't really need you right now. and like when it's time to step up, they're the ones who are making me the meals and making sure I'm eating and making sure I'm like, I have what I need. So that part looks really good, and I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, that shared responsibility. It seems
Yes.
like, yeah.
They see, and then and I have to say, I ask for it. I have to ask for it. And that's important. And then so when time comes, I literally have had to say, I said, hey guys, like, can I, like, and here's the thing, like I'm at the age where everyone's got their own diet. Like my daughter's a pescatarian. My husband is like a power lifter. So he's like very, like he's protein heavy. And I'm here on this like a perimenopausal diet. And then, which is also protein heavy. And then like everyone's got a different diet. And I was just like, my brain is about to burst whenever I'm trying to actually cook. And then here's my parents' diet, right? So I'm here to adjusting, like there's no way I can adjust a single meal that can fit everyone's diets. And so that was probably what led me to say, y'all, please step up and just cook for yourself. Okay. And then that's where it started. But the guilt is there. Like I said this morning, I'm like, so sorry. I didn't, and thank you for cleaning. And I'm like thanking them more than anything. I was like, hey, thanks for keeping this kitchen clean. Thank you so much for wiping up. Thank you so much for taking care of this. Thank you, because I did not have time to do it. I'm really falling behind on my home chores. And my plants are dying. Well, better my plants than people, right, around me. And so like,
Yeah. Yes. And I think people can relate. I think they can relate. But what I love that you said is you asked for it, because you asked for what you needed, because oftentimes we don't. And when you ask, then there's clarity around how people can support you.
yeah,
And
it is. And I
yeah.
think that's when you're pushed against all things and everything is pushing on you, then you have to push back. And then you have to figure out what is the thing that you have to create space.
Mhm.
And you have to figure out what's going to give you space. I mean, my work. And then it's really interesting that it was like, we were watching something like a movie. It was just like, oh, it was Hugh Jackman. We were watching The Greatest Showman again. And then there was the very end when he goes like, he hands his hat over to his Zach Efron, and he was just like, hey, it's your turn, right? And then he was like, well, what are you gonna do? And he was like, I'm gonna go watch my daughters grow up. And then I was like, you know what? I did that already. I was like, that's what I started with. And I'm like, I watched my kids grow up. And now it's my turn to work. And it's my like, and I'm going all in, and I'm working, I'm working my ass off, right? That's part that I'm claiming for myself at this moment in this chapter of my life. And, balancing it and like communicating also to my grown children, hey, like I need room for this, and so I got to do this, and redefining this, like redefining what that looks like too. Right. And then so like when they come in and they start talking to you right away, and that's what people do. I do the same thing. Sometimes I don't, like, I go interrupt like somebody while they're in the middle of a thought, and then I'll start talking, hey, guess what? Like, da, da. And I'm like, oh, hey, hold on a second. I need to finish this email. It's in my head. And if I lose this, I'm going to have to spend another half hour trying to get back in. So just give me a second. I'll be right with you. And then so I have to do those things to be able to balance the home life, right? And then to balance but I have actually had to tell my family that of the shift. I had to communicate the shift with them, that I know. And then I still feel the guilt. I'm like, so sorry. I know I'm not present. So that's why the weekends are so important for us, right? I am like religiously do not work on weekends. And that's why I also take Fridays off, because my weekends are for my family. And that's why I'm like, sometimes, I'm like, oh, maybe, to make more room for work, maybe I could do things with my parents on Saturday. I'm like, nope, because my Saturday and Sunday is for my family. So I had to like in making room for the three things, right? Like balancing the three corners of the triangle in my life, I realized that I'm giving up work to take care of my parents instead of giving up my family to take care of my parents. And so that's where I had to make sure there's room. But I mean, to be honest, there's still very little room for myself. That's the hard part, right? But I feel, that's the hard part. I don't know. I think I'm creatively trying to figure out how to spark more, and so like I said, I have zero answers. And then like part of the question, what I wonder if it's like, is this just, hey, this is in the season. I'm like, sometimes I do believe in seasons. Like in this season, it's okay because I have taken time for myself in other seasons, and I will claim that back in the next season. But right now, it is what it is because I'm supporting my family, I'm supporting college students. So I need to work. And then, like, my work is important. In fact, I love my work. So, I mean, like, all of that stuff, it's like, that's why it's so important. Right. And then my parents are important because of all of the things that I've said. It's like, these are people who, who raised me and, gave me the life that I have. So absolutely that they belong in a huge chunk of my life. But to find energy, making sure I get my workouts in the morning, making sure I wake up in the morning to do things. The miracle morning, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that kept me going last year. And so, which is like making sure I spend that time, even if it's a little bit, just to, as a reflection, to give thanks and to practice gratefulness and to practice self growth in tiny moments.
Our next question you already really answered, which I think is great. Typically, we ask, so you're carrying these 3 shifts. So, what changes in terms of your perspective on work, success, and leadership? And you just gave us a great answer. Like, it's seasonal, you are intentional, and you're also aware of what it is that you need, knowing that weekends, including Friday, are really separate than work.
Yeah.
So I have 2 follow-up questions for you that are completely unrelated. And one is, what are the systems that you use knowing that you have a 4-day week and you want to say yes to your clients? You want the business to grow. So I'm just curious, what systems do you have in place that keep the 4-day work week working for you and allow you to say yes to clients and new clients?
Yeah, that is a tricky one because that's now all work related. And let me just tell you, this is exactly a struggle that I'm going through at the very moment because my business is growing. And in any business, it's like you have to continue to do the work to bring in more work. And if you are a 1 person or 2 person or a small business, you're the person who's doing all the sales. You're the person who's doing all the lead lead generation. You're doing all of those things. That's not even the work that I do for my clients. And then in order for me to do that, like I know I have a voice and I know I have big ambitions for my business. In order to get there, I'm creating content, right? Just like both of you are creating content and, doing YouTube and all of that stuff. And content is tough because it doesn't immediately mean monetization in any way, shape, or form. So to keep that up it takes a lot of grit, right? I've got that going. I've got the lead gen going, which means I'm engaging with my clients and doing the sales and all of that whole process. And then I have client work in between. So I am a very systems minded person. And so I have the systems in place, like in the back end to make sure I support that, but still it's tough. And then let me just tell you a trick. Okay. Claude connects to your calendar. And I literally did this 2 months ago. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And this is all like organization numbers and even math, right? I was like, hey, Claude, can you tell me what am spending my time on? He looks into my calendar and he was like, okay, you had an average of 5 or 6 phone calls or something like that every month. And then so I'm taking that. I'm like, well, really, like how many, is that successful? And I'm have to go look at that to look at like, is that working for me? How many of those actually are like turning into something? And then so that means I need to tweak something, right? Like it's all about the flow of business. And then so I'm like, okay, now from there, how many hours do I really need to be spending in lead gen? And then so I'm like, and then how many hours do I have for client work? And where can I actually shave off some time? And then so basically Claude's like, all of this, you probably are spending too much time on content creation. I'm like, okay, yes. So that's what I did. Like seriously, I needed a consultant and that was Claude. And then it was just so cool. So I have became like, I know exactly what I come in every Monday I'm doing every hour I know what I do on Mondays. I know what I do on Tuesday. I know on Wednesdays, Thursdays. I know what I do on Fridays. So every single day, I know I come in with a purpose, and I'm just banging it out. And so I'm like ultra productive. I have to say, I have to be, right? Like I have to be able to fit it all in and to be able to give the clients the best work that I can. And just in business, you solve one problem, a new problem pops up. So it's like I solved the lead gen problem, but okay, but now the capacity is the problem. And then now that, you know what I mean? It's just
Right. You're always trying to scale, but also have the resources to meet the scale.
100%.
And that is never just easy because
Yeah.
you're always nervous that something's going to be out of scale.
Yeah. And I think that's life, right? That's a conversation that's within the work and the bigger part of my life. You're always compromising something. It's like you put more here, less time for this and here. And then so it's just this. And that's why I felt like when I was like looking at it, I'm like, it almost is like math. Like I didn't realize how much math went into this. And it's just underneath it, there is a lot of math, but I bring a lot of human into it too. It's just this fine balance.
Because I think we feel like we have to take away from our business to give to caregiving. And it's interesting that you have actually figured out what the math is for both for you, rather than feeling like I have to scale back from my business. I just have to run a smaller business right now. You've decided I can grow this business, and the growth is as big as I want it to be, and I still remain present within my caregiving responsibilities.
I don't think that, I don't know if I'm doing it well, right? I mean, it sounds great. Am I doing it well? I don't know,
Sounds
right?
like
Like
it.
Yeah, yeah. Because
um,
I actually have a branding question for you.
mm,
Okay, so what is the brand overhaul that we need for family caregivers?
what an amazing question. Well, we can't go to overhaul until we've defined where it is right now. Can you share with me what you think it is at the moment?
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a great question. And that sometimes feels hard to answer. And I am in like enmeshed in this. So I think about it all the time. And I kind of always default to the last conversation I had. And it was about recent stats that show 60% of the US adult population will be in a caregiving role within the next few weeks, or next few, I mean, next few years. Maybe it's the next few weeks, next few years. And I posted about it on LinkedIn, and someone said, this just shows that caregiving support cannot be voluntary, like a throwaway, like, oh, yeah, sure, if we can, we'll support you. It has to be mandatory that family caregivers are supported. And what's interesting is we show up within systems like the medical and healthcare systems, demonstrating that we are a family caregiver. And yet there's no mandatory support within the system to help us. We each figure it out ourselves, feeling overwhelmed and stressed and wondering, where is the help and why isn't anyone telling me where it is?
Oh my goodness, that is quite the problem. I am feeling you on that because I have no idea where to get the support. And you're right. It feels like the mandatory part, I think, is huge. I think it's defining. I feel like a lot of times what I do in branding, I always like to look at where it came from. I'm always asking people, and this is what they neglect a lot, is where did all this start? Where did you come from? Where did the spark come? Like when did this become a thing? So I think that's probably a place to also look. Where did it all start? I think caregiving has started from the beginning of time, but where we are now has to do with the culture, the expectation, and it's it's American societal issue, because this same issue isn't present in other cultures, is not present in another country, and which often brings me back to always feeling guilty because my parents chose to leave where they were comfortable to come here. But where then when they came here, they have always felt like they were fish out of water. And they're currently living in a culture that is not supportive of them. If they were in China, it would look very different. And every time I think about it, I'm racked with guilt because I feel like if they didn't give up this to me, they would have had a much easier life. They would have a much easier end of life at these years, these critical years that I'm watching them suffer now. And this is why I work so hard to take care of them. And I'm one person and I can't possibly be that. But I think it needs to be it's a cultural conversation. It's a cultural shift that is, we live in a society that is, tout itself on the strength of the individual. And so you're not on the strength of the community. And so if that's the case, then this is what we've created. So it has to be a cultural shift in order for that to even understand what that can look like, and redefining how like we see family, and that family isn't just supported by the children, and that we are a village. I think that would be much easier, and which is something that I don't have the luxury of having at the moment. Like I'm the only child. Like there's nobody else around me to take this responsibility. But I think even in America, because people are so individualistic, like I think that often is the case anyway with most families here. And so I do think that we need to change the conversation around, I think, gosh, I'm sorry, like I'm a little bit lost for words, because I feel like like you were saying, people don't even know where to get their resources, because it's almost like our culture hasn't focused on this as a priority ever. And then so it's became like a stigma a little bit to kind of be at this place and feeling at a loss, or like feeling like this is a season where it's no longer fun and it's no longer, but when it could be looked at it in a different way. We can look at it from a different light, where this is a season where you can come together maybe as a family. I've never seen my family come together. My husband's side of the family, they chose to unite to take care of their parents. And then we're taking a cruise this year because we just lost our mom. And then we're using this time to celebrate. And then so you look at this time, rebrand it as this is a time of togetherness. This is a time of celebrating one's life. This is a time where family comes together to support one another in the time of loss and in the time of, hardship, and rebrand that conversation. I think, wouldn't that be much more positive, right?
Well,
I don't know if that's the question you're asking, or are you talking about the industry in itself?
I think you answered the question, and I'm going to continue to think about it because it's really compelling. A lot of times people will say the caregiving issue isn't positioned as being sexy, which is why no
Yes.
one likes to talk about it. No one likes to focus on it. But I think it's not necessarily that. It's just that we don't know how to be in it. It is an experience that is painful with a lot of suffering. We are not comfortable in that space. And I think it's more about really empowering people with skills to know how to support someone who has a painful experience that's full of suffering. And that's the family caregiver, and that's the caree.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Lauren's going to wrap us up with our last question.
Yeah. And it can be an interesting segue. Normally we ask about workplaces. As an entrepreneur, though, I'm curious if more people understood what the triple shift costs and what it teaches. Maybe I'm going to approach this differently. How would you want policies to be designed differently to support family caregivers?
And I want there to be way more programs out there to support caregivers, right? And I think I recently did find an organization that I think is amazing, but then they recently had to pull a ton of, because they lost a lot of funding. They are not able to support like support us in the same way that they used to. So it needs to be way more prioritized in on the government level so that funding can be going to the people. This is where our tax dollars should be going to. This is where we should be funding it, because we will at some point or another be experience this. It is not something we can escape. I mean, every single one of us, whether we're going to be experiencing this on the caregiving level or experiencing on the aging level, all of this is relevant to us. And so, like, when it comes to policies, we need to make sure that we're being taken care of. And it's so short-sighted to not taking care of this, because it doesn't seem like it doesn't matter to you, but 100% of the people will need this at some way, shape, or form. Unless you're the filthy rich, then you have all of your funding in place. But even then, it's like, wouldn't it be nice if the entire society, or the entire, like, the way we're living as a whole, as like, has shifted so that we all are looking at this differently, so that it doesn't look like this is something that we want to turn a blind eye to, or we are feeling like it's unsexy, because that's not the way to look at any of this. Because yeah, there is, because it's not sexy, it's just, that's why people walk away from it. But it's like an ostrich sticking your head in the sand, because it's all going to come to you no matter where you're at, right? And so that's, I 100%, I think that there needs to be more. And I'm grateful for the ones who I found who are really effective.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. All of us will either need care or be a caregiver at some point. Like, that will happen. You said you're grateful for the programs that you found. I am curious, what has been most helpful?
I just found it, and honestly, I was avoiding it because it's been such a heavy weight on my, like, in even looking for care. And because my parents have a language barrier, it's even harder for me to look for care. But there's an organization in Sacramento called, I think it's Del Oro, and so they're amazing. And so I'm literally having a conversation with them next week, my first one, and they're giving me somebody to guide me through things. I have no idea what she's going to guide me through. It's my first time, but I have been avoiding, like, even having this conversation. And I started going to a Parkinson support group in my city. All of this is volunteers, or it's funded, like, it's at the senior center around here. Again, not sexy, right? Like, that's why nobody goes. And all of that has been tremendous for me. And, like, just the little things, I just, me personally, I need more language and cultural, like, more that based for more. But just getting a little glimpses of how some of these organizations are able to help, right? Like, for respite care, like, that's what Del Rio does, is that, like, they will actually give you help. And so, if you are the caregiver and you need a break, they will actually provide you with free respite care, for a period of time. And so that's one of the things that I know that they do give. But it's because of funding, people are getting less and less, and they have a waiting list of a long list of people who need it, and you may not even get it. Whereas before, you had a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that funding in the waiting list, that's why we often encourage people to search for those things sooner too,
Yeah.
because
And
it makes such a difference.
yeah, and even Meals on Wheels. I was trying to get on the waiting list. I don't even know where I am. Like, they have not, but I called them a year ago, and they're like, "Oh yeah, our waiting list is like 9 months long." I'm like, "You kidding me?" Right? I mean, so this is on days. I'm like, "Can you just please get this set up for me on days that I can't do this?" Because, like, if I don't make a meal, my parents literally starve, right? Like, that's the reality of it. And I'm like, I just need something. Like, I just need some help. And I don't have it. I still don't have it.
Yeah. The need is great and the wait is long. And to Denise's point, we know we have more need coming based on the aging population. So definitely important. Well, I appreciate you sharing. We know these programs are so important. We know the funding is so important. And it goes back again to that shared responsibility, not just the individual, not just the workplace, but the government policies and how those all come together to make a difference for family caregivers.
To provide resources, right? And also marketing these resources then, so that people will know that they're around. And I think a lot of times people they have no idea. I had no idea. I had to go look for it myself. And then, like, when you're in pain, and you're stuck, like sometimes it's so much extra effort for you to actually go and find it because you just don't have the
That's right.
energy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Calvina, thank you for sharing your story with us today. We certainly appreciate everything that you had to share. I know it will absolutely resonate. And you know what I just want to acknowledge too for you is you've been a caregiver your whole life. And I think while you had a pivotal moment that you talked about with the pandemic where you realized you were becoming more of an adult caregiver, you really shared that you've been caring for people your whole life and had that immense responsibility. But just thank you for sharing everything that you are doing in your triple shift. Your brand work is incredible, and what you are doing for yourself and your family is certainly incredible as well. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Denise.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. It was great. I loved that conversation, Lauren. And what really struck me is what Calvina said at the end, where she's in a place where she is in pain, emotional pain. She feels the suffering for herself and her parents. And that's when she is looking for help. And that's such a difficult time to look for help. And it feels like we put people in this place of just deep pain without help and support.
Yeah.
And then the expectation is somehow they're going to know the right words to use when they start a Google search or the right name of an organization when they call for help. It just kind of blows your mind when you think about how many people are in their house right now just feeling this pain and suffering and thinking, I'm alone in this. It's
Hmm.
a horrible feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about, all the systems too that we know family caregivers are interacting with that they're, they're not experts, but they're trying to make sense of what's going on with minimal information and pulling it from all these different places and trying to become as well informed as they can. And it just adds such a layer of complexity. Yeah, I know that resonates for so many people. The other thing is she was talking that just kept going over in my mind because so many of the clients that I work with are female, independent, big jobs or entrepreneurs, they're women, and just the layers of roles that these women are taking on in their lives, right? They're the ones who get shit done in every aspect. They're taking on all of the responsibility. And she kept saying, I'm just apologizing to people. And like I hear that so often of that sense of letting people down, even when they are doing so much. And I just, for me, it struck a chord for me personally as well. But for so many people who are just taking on such an immense sense of responsibility at this time in their life and feeling like in some way they're letting somebody down and how they're not, right? They're just not because they're doing all of it at such a high level. And that ability to just keep taking more and more on, I think it's extraordinary. We have to help caregivers, find some peace and some respite and some grace for themselves too.
Yeah, it's this idea that I'm always going to come up short
Hmm.
instead of being okay with I am as full as needed right now, or
Yeah.
some other version of that. It is really a terrible thought to end your day with, boy, I failed a lot of people today. And that is what weighs heavy because you carry that to the next day as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a
Okay.
great conversation.
Yeah.
Can I just say too, though, she is designing a life. Whether it's recognized or not, she is designing a life that is allowing her to care and work and live in a way that is building the future that she wants as well. And I think that's really a critical call out for what she's doing, because she's working 4 days. She knows that the meals are the critical piece of her caregiving, and she's asking for what she needs from her family. So she is designing a life that I think is a really beautiful thing.
And she is not saying I have to sacrifice
Yeah.
part of my life. And I think that was what was so important to hear. We often think I have to sacrifice myself. I have to sacrifice something I love. I have to sacrifice my career. And what we're really looking for is, how do we make adjustments along the way so we keep it, we carry it with us, we don't leave it behind. It's
Yeah.
not on the back burner. It's still with us.
That's right. As usual, these caregivers are exceptional people.
Yeah. Thanks, Lauren. Another great episode.
Thank you.
That's today's conversation on the triple shift. And if this conversation resonated with you and you know someone who could benefit from being a part of the conversation, feel free to share this with them so that they know we get it and we're here to support them.
And for leaders and organizations who are ready to build workplaces that actually work for caregivers, we'd love to help with that. You can connect with us at Denise@caringourway.com or Lauren@theempoweredexec.com.
And if you're navigating the triple shift, your story matters, and we'd love for you to share it with us.
So please subscribe, leave a review, and tell us what you want to hear next. It genuinely shapes this show. Thanks for listening. Take care of your people and yourself.